Hello everyone! Welcome to Embodied Art Studio. My name is Shannon. I teach all the classes here in the studio, and today I'm really excited. This is my first video ever on YouTube to start giving out some beginner painter tips. If you're interested in learning how to paint, I got some really good tricks up my sleeve that I teach to my students here and some fun assignments for all you. So today I'm thinking we start with a cross-hatching technique, which is one of my favorite ways to blend. And there's so many different ways to use it, and that's one of the reasons I love it as well, because you can use it in more of an abstract way, just playing with color. You can use it to show depth in flowers, dimension in people, and you can also use it to give some texture in landscapes. So today we're going to more focus on just learning the technique and how to blend using cross-hatching. So we're going to go more for just playing around with a color field, which can be a really fun way to just like start out an original piece of artwork, right? Because sometimes when you start painting, you're like, well, where do I start? Like, how do I even put paint on the canvas? And that can be really scary when you're like looking at a blank canvas. So I think that this can be a really fun way to like get your hand moving, kind of feeling the paint and just enjoying it, because that's really why we want to learn how to paint and really why we paint, because it is so much fun. And I think this technique is so much fun, and I am very excited to share it with you. So I'm gonna grab some paint and we're gonna get started here. Okay, so when I start my painting, I want to have a general idea of where I'm going to put my different colors. So I have my blue, my pinks, and my yellows, right? So a very common thing that if you're going to start painting, it sounds really fun and a really cool idea to just start, going all over the place on my painting, like bringing my pinks like everywhere and cross-hatching that way. Right? But that is going to create a mess of pinks and blues and yellows all blended together, and what we're going to end up with really is brown in the end, because if you mix your primary colors all together, you're going to get grays and browns. So I want a plan of where I'm going to have pure blues, pure pinks, and pure yellows. So it might be nice to just draw out maybe with some yellow. Yellow's like kind of like that wimpy color that gets covered by any other color. So maybe I want to go for something radial. Like I love circles, so I'm gonna decide, okay, I want my yellows maybe in this inside area, maybe my pinks will be out here in this space, and then my blues will be out towards my edges. Okay, so that's like a general idea of where I want my colors. Nice and grounding to just have that mapped out for me, like very, very basic, right? I'm not gonna go for a perfect circle. I'm gonna chop it up and make it a little like rough around the edges, like I like to say. So I'm gonna start out with my dark blue. I'm using a square brush here. I just really love like that shape. You get those like hard edges, and then you can get some like organic kind of more textured, weird shapes with the square brush as well. So cross-hatching is really just a movement of the brush, right? So when you make a mark in one direction, you have to make a mark in a completely different direction. And these lines can vary. You can have long lines, you can have very short lines. The most important thing is that you're making brush strokes that vary, right? It's really different than going for like a really smooth look with the paint, which is also a way to apply paint to the canvas as well, but we're looking for some fun, choppy texture, and that is what the cross-hatching is just so much fun for. So I'm going to be moving my brush in all different types of directions. When I first see my students like start to cross-hatch, they take it really seriously. Like their marks are just like so intentional, and they like put one down and they're like, okay, that's really good. Here's another mark. Fabulous. Another mark. And like, okay, that's totally fine. I get the point of it. You're being like very intentional about how you're putting your paint, but like try and loosen up. Hold your brush like maybe towards like the bottom of it, and really try and move like perhaps a little faster, getting some choppy marks in there, not worrying too much, okay? And if you really want to start to blend this lighter blue into this darker blue, I want you to clean out your brush and use a damp brush to kind of smooth these two blues together. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to use light pressure and more crisscrossing. Right, so you're kind of like massaging this dark blue into this light blue until they've really kind of like gradually transitioned into the other. And I'll show that down here again. And the paint must be wet for you to blend the two together if that's what you're trying to do. So I'm trying to go over my yellow a little bit here. Like I said, I really want to keep it choppy. I'm not looking for like a perfect circle blend. Some light blue, and here I go. I kind of like to go around like where I want my light blue to be, and then, and it's okay if there's a little paint on my brush, but then I'll soften the edges by using light pressure, repetition of strokes, and the paint must be wet. Do not forget that. Blending will not happen between these two different blues if your paint rather is not wet. Cool, and that feels pretty good. I think I want to start moving. Actually, let's not forget about our top right corner here. Bring some of this blue in as well. Okay, we're gonna move into our pinks. I'm gonna go for the darker hot pink at first. If your values, and remember that is our spectrum from dark to light, if your values are fairly close together, they're gonna be a little bit easier to blend, whereas if you try and do like yellow straight into that blue, it's just gonna be so different from light to dark that it's just gonna take a little bit more work to blend. Right, so again, I wanna get that blending over with first, since the paint is still wet. Very light pressure, I'm moving my brush all around, repetition, and that feels pretty good, right? So might add some more pink in here. Kind of getting this like awesome like grayish purple color. I like to like throw some like kind of like longer, more streaky strokes in there once in a while. And it's just paint. The great thing about it just being paint, and acrylic paint especially, is that it dries super quick. So as soon as it's dry, you can just paint right over it. Like if I'm like, oh, dang it, I put, too much blue and I want some more pink in there, I can just wait for my paint to dry and I can bring it in later on. I won't be afraid to kind of move into my blue a little bit with this pink. Kind of create some texture in there that way. And go into my lighter pink. Crosshatching, crosshatching away. If it starts to get like really dirty, you're getting like some blues in there and you don't want them in there, just clean out your brush. Or really like swirl it around at the bottom of my bucket, and I'll use a towel to like really squeegee it out when I clean my brush. And if I see moments I want to go back to and add some different colors in there, I'll always do that, even if it's wet. If it's still like really wet, what you want to do if you want to make more intentional, like here's a couple of like red marks that I might not blend as much, you want to make sure you hit it on the canvas and not touch it as much. If you really want to blend it, then you just, tap it a little bit more and touch it a little bit more, and then you really just kind of like push it into that color a little bit more. But if you want moments where you kind of like want to show that mark a little bit more, it's fun to just kind of make a mark and leave it. All right, I'm going to my yellow. Like I said, yellow is like one of those really wimpy colors, so it might get taken over by the pink really fast, who knows. I'm just gonna be really gentle with it. Using light pressure of the brush. Using the body of the brush too, I think is really helpful. This is the body of my brush, right? This is the tip of my brush. Cool. Love the colors. maybe for fun, I just kind of like drag some yellow in here and experience what happens. Get some of my lighter yellow in here too that I mixed. Just a little bit more white. I could bring some pure whites right in the middle. This is called wet into wet. I'm bringing wet paint right on top of wet paint and getting that lighter yellow on my canvas instead of mixing it on my palette. All right, so I can do that in other areas too if I wanted to lighten it with some white. And I know, and I'm like such a victim of this. Like I just want to keep playing and touching it and cross-hatching away, but I think it'd be best if we just let it dry at this point, right? So in my second layer, which I also like to call chance for second opportunity, you let it dry and you get to, you know, redo it in either a way that you want, like a little bit more or less of certain colors, or if you love it the way it is, you relayer it and you just give it another layer to enhance the color, enhance the texture. The more paint, the truer the color is going to be, because less of that white canvas is going to show through. Right, and maybe after I'm done too, it'd be nice to like add a different color down here. Like I can definitely do that. This is just the start of my cross-hatching background, right? And another fun thing about this is very non-objective, right? Non-objective means that I'm not actually trying to represent anything. I'm not trying to paint my dog or my cat, right? I'm just trying to play around with colors. So a really fun thing about painting non-objective is like maybe you see something while you're painting or by the time that you're done, and maybe I see a sky or a galaxy and I decide that I want to put some mountains in the front or trees in the front, right? That's a very spontaneous and fun and unique and just really genuine way to paint. So I would highly suggest trying this out, see what you see, learn what you learn, and really get to play around with the texture of the paint.